real solutions to money, relationships, wellness, and more. Shine a light onto your day and into your life. Power Your Life with Dr. Joanne White.
Good evening and welcome to Power Your Life. I'm your host, Joanne White. Tonight we're going to tackle the widespread and complex theme of bullying. Often bullying happens outside of us by others, but what happens when the bully comes from the inside? Most of us have beaten ourselves up at one time or another, and sometimes we fail or make wrong decisions or we undermine our primary relationships. That's natural, but it can get out of control. What's important is how we can learn to forgive ourselves, become more confident, and build more self-worth. Dr. Sidney Cohn, the author of Your Self-Sabotaging Inner Bully, Standing Up to It Once and for All, has some answers. Thanks for joining me, Dr. Cohn.
It's good to be here. I welcome this opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thanks for the book.
Very welcome.
So, we all do self-sabotage, but what's the difference between an inner bully and an external bully, an outer bully?
Outer bully basically reflects or is real bullies. People who can be abusive, people who can belittle, people who can be physically at some time or another attacking. There's also sometimes more subtle forms of bullying, which can be guilt tripping, people who also at times are really neglected and ignored. There's really a whole range of what can go under the heading of bullying.
Teasing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And now with the internet and all that cyberbullying, right?
Yes. And what that does, or what it can do, is create internally what I call an inner bully, where the inner bully basically is a reflection and almost a mirroring of those kinds of communications that come from real bullies, and they get internalized, and by getting internalized, a person is basically one way or another saying bullying things to themselves, and that can lead to some real self-sabotage.
And it could also lead to, well, we undermine ourselves, and it's, I know oftentimes people have a battle within themselves. Now, you've been a psychologist for 30 years, and you also do some consulting at Kennedy Memorial. Is that true?
Correct.
So congratulations, 30
Thank you.
years in private practice. That is impressive. So you've met a lot of people who probably come to you, as they come to me, and they talk about their thoughts that are out of control and what they say to themselves. What kind of advice do you give people who are sabotaging, let's say, their relationships, their primary relationships, their important relationships?
It's very important to be as aware and mindful as you can of how there are things you can say or do or patterns of behaviors that, if you don't get a handle on, can create an ongoing pattern in which you are undermining those relationships. For example, in personal romantic relationships, it could be something along the lines of, certainly a case would be of infidelity. There's instances in which the communication is really not the way it's supposed to be. There are people who can go ahead and just basically do things that cause a loss of respect. And once that respect is lost, there increases the odds that you're not going to be as capable or as comfortable as you could be being in that relationship and having a healthy relationship.
So basically what they're doing is they're making sure on some level, and maybe they're not even aware of it, right? But they're making sure on some level that their relationship isn't going to work because of their actions and their responses or lack of responses.
Yes, and if I can piggyback
please.
off that, I look at it as there are three basic messages that our inner bully kind of instills in us, and it is all subconscious. Three basic messages. Number one, I don't deserve to get what I want to be happy. Number two, I feel that when I do something or I mess something up in my life, I deserve some kind of punishment. And then the third message is basically, and I'm not allowed to challenge either of those two messages. So you put those three things together, and therefore your belief in yourself really isn't great. There's almost a sense of worthlessness inside. Then as long as those messages are in place and you, in a sense, uphold them, you are more likely to do things or not do things that will sabotage the relationship sooner or later.
So a lot of it, as you're talking, is about deservability. Many of us don't feel that we deserve to have that relationship, to make a certain amount of money, to be good at work, to feel confident. And then we don't believe that we have the ability, as you're saying, to change it. I'm just trying to understand it a little bit better.
Yeah, there's a distinction that comes up pretty often. I'll ask somebody, do you want to have a good relationship? Do you want to be happy in your life? And in a sense, that kind of question is sort of a no-brainer. Yeah, of course I want to get what I want to be happy. Subtly, though, if you ask the same person the same kind of question, but you replace the word want with deserve, do I deserve to have the great kind of relationship I want? Do I deserve to be happy? Something else gets triggered inside. There's a discomfort. And that discomfort for a lot of people is because the inner bully is taking over inside and saying, no, 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 you don't deserve that. There are things you've done or haven't done right, and your inner bully, say, nope, you don't deserve it, I don't care how much you want it.
And you know, the inner bully can get so loud and so sounding like it's really the boss, because I know I've had to work with my inner bully when I was really younger, and it was like, oh my God, it's the voice of God, but it's inside of us. It gets pretty scary, and we give up that control. So what are some ways that people can actually defeat the inner bully or gain enough self-confidence and self-esteem to be able to stand up to it, as your book says?
There's different things I think that a person needs to take some control over and really practice in their lives. One of which for sure is how to give yourself credit for what you're doing right. The bully likes us to focus on kind of the glass half empty. What are we doing wrong? What are we doing insufficiently? In the process, the inner bully's in there saying, I don't want you to see what you do right. So there's a certain structured exercise that I have people do in which there's certain categories, effort, courage, willpower, giving to others, and that by giving yourself credit for those categories, anything you've done that day or in the last few days, that is a positive affirmation of a statement, it goes against the inner bully. It's standing up to it because, again, it's in there saying, no, 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 you're not giving yourself any credit.
So I think that's great. So people can practice those exercises, affirmations, if you will, and eventually, the inner bully gets quiet. Does it ever turn off?
No, unfortunately. It's not going away. We all basically do have to live with it. And there are some people who certainly have, I call it a more taunting or tormenting inner bully, people whose degree of self-sabotage and negative self-talk is really a bigger problem.
Well, Dr. Cohen, I think it's such an important issue, and thank you. I think we did a great job.
Thank you.
Coming up, it's a global effort to help people around the world realize their dreams and overcome challenges. Meet two local forces behind the movement